How's it going? 26th of December. It's foggy, cold. I've been way over yonder to get some stuff to put in the compost bin because I have got absolutely nothing on my site to put in the bin. I've got to make as much compost as I can. This time of year it's just so important for me to make absolutely as much compost as I can get hold of. So let's just show you what I've got. This stuff has been scavenged from abandoned allotments and from people who I know on site who just say take what you want this time of year, you know, so I do. Right, let's see how the bin's cooking. What I did, not yesterday, the day before, 24th of December, I went into the wood and I gathered all Terry's empty monkey nut shells and dumped them in. Have we got any heat? We have heat. And you know, that smells really good. It does. You get different smells from your heap. If it's going anaerobic, there's a nasty sour smell to it. But if it's cooking nicely, it's got a lovely earthy smell to it. Let's just have a look in here. Let's have a close up. Oh yeah, I'll bring you over and look at it. I've got a couple of shout outs. One's to Martin's Giant Veg and Food Allotment, and the other one is to Adam at the Weekend Gardener. So go and check them out, guys. I'll leave a link below. Yeah, there's all the monkey nuts. You can see all the steam just belting off here. These are apples. That's fungus starting to attach to the apples. More apples. Straw and apples. Yeah, there's some nice heat there, guys. It's not screamy heat. It's round about, let's say, 40, 50 centigrade, that I'd say. It's good enough. There's nothing in here regarding weed seed that needs killing off. It's just apples and plant stalks. I'll just show you what I'm putting in today, guys. And as I said, you know, if you want to start doing no dig, you need to start making compost. It's the perfect time of year to do it. This is some more dead comfrey. All the comfrey, the frost has done all the comfrey on site. So if you know where there are any comfrey patches, there's still like dead, decaying comfrey to be had. Like that. It's better when it's green, obviously, because comfrey really kicks the heat off in your hot bin. This is some sweet corn someone had just dumped. It would be better chopped up smaller than that, but because the heap is it's generally wetter this time of year, I don't mind stuff like this. It traps a little bit more moisture in the heap, and it won't have rotted by the time this is finished. This sweet corn stems, they will not have rotted, but a lot of cellulose in them and a lot of carbon in them. But what they will do, they'll go through the heap next time. I'll pull them out and put them back in again. And this is some more. These are, I think these were dahlias, I'm not actually 100% sure. But again, some dry material, some carbon, stuff like this in your compost heap. All plants do this, even potatoes do this. The outside of the growing stems are mostly carbon. You need carbon in your compost for the fungus. The fungus love carbon, as do the bacteria. But when you're making compost, ideally you want a perfect balance of fungus and bacteria. This is why you need some woody material in. Old wood chip is just as good because it's, you know, it's carbon. It's a carbon source, but this is a carbon source, and it's also going to rot down a lot better than wood chip is. If I didn't have this, I would of course be putting in some wood chip. But I'm only putting all this carbon in winter now, this time of year, because really all I've got is apples that I keep finding on the allotments. For instance, this, which is some conifery wood chip, you can put a little bit of that in. It does no harm. This is wet because it's been in this bucket, open top bucket, the rain's been getting into it. But you need a bit of dry stuff, because when you dump this stuff on, you need something that's going to soak up the moisture from these apples. I'm sort of coming to the end of, you know, the apples on the allotments now. There's a couple of sites on here with a lot of apple trees, and all the apples are on the floor, rotting away. I don't take all the apples. I always leave some, you know. I'll probably leave sort of 30% of apples like that on the ground, because the birds do eat them, the blackbirds and things. And I know a lot of I think the field furs come down this time of year, so there's always a lot of field furs on the allotments eating the apples. Not actually seen any this year, it's unusual. And that will be it for today. I'll go on another little recce tomorrow and see what I can find. Guys, if you want to get into no-dig gardening, it's just so important to go and find some compost, something you can compost. As I say, this time of year, this and browns like this, just dead plant material. Because you can dress beds with compost any time of year. It doesn't matter, you know. You can go from January to December dressing beds with compost. Your ground really needs it. It's the only way you're going to grow healthy plants, by having some organic matter in your soil. And as I've already said, you don't have to dig it into your soil. Ideally, you want it laying on the surface like nature does. When winter comes, everything dies back, lays on the soil, and the soil life comes up to meet that. Worms bring it down, the microbes then break it up, etc., etc. So that's the way you want it. In an upcoming video soon, I'm going to explain the importance of fungus, the mycorrhizal in the soil, just how vitally important it is to plants, you know, to healthy plants anyway. This is why you need your fungus and bacteria at a perfect 50-50 balance for growing healthy, happy, nutritious food, because it's actually the fungus that brings a lot of nutrition to your plants, a lot of the minerals, etc. And when you dig your soil, what you do is you absolutely destroy that fungal network that's interlinked and growing throughout the soil. It's a bit like digging a massive hole across the M25 motorway. Everything would just stop. You know, everything would grind to a halt until that hole or that trench has been repaired. Exactly the same with fungus in the soil. So guys, here are some of the reasons why compost heaps go wrong, and probably why a lot of people don't compost material. The number one problem I see on compost heaps is soil. People do the weeding on their allotments, they dig up plants, and they leave most, if not all, of the soil on the roots. Soil kills compost heaps. Just believe me on that. Just don't put soil into your compost heap. Soil does not decompose. It sits there just inert. It will actually stop the decomposting process. Yeah, because there's guys on here have built hot bins, and they ask me, why is my hot bin not heating up? And I go and look, and it's just full of soil. It just doesn't work, guys. It doesn't work. Knock the soil off your plants before you put them into your heap, or cut the roots off, leave them in the ground with vegetables. That's what I do. Any soil that's attached to the roots stays attached to the roots in the soil. It also really benefits your soil, leaving the roots in the ground and composting the tops in the compost bin. Other problems are the heaps are just too dry. There's too much dry material going into the heap. It will eventually decompose, but if you put in a lot of dry materials, then just get the watering can and keep it wet. It will still decompose, but a lot slower than it would if you're generating heat. partridge. I think the Guns and Navarone are just about to kick off. There's partridge shooting everywhere. The other thing that can happen is the heap can get too wet, so you'll get anaerobic microbes taking over the heap, and that when that happens, it's generally really smelly, the heap. You know, it's a stinking putrid mess. But all is not lost. All that then requires is the addition of some oxygen, turning it, putting oxygen in. The anaerobic bacteria will die back and the good bacteria will then take over in the presence of oxygen. So all is not lost if your heap goes anaerobic. It certainly isn't. Lastly, the biggest problem is just the correct ratios aren't going in of green and brown. If you put in your correct ratios of green and brown, just do it 50-50. If you want a hotter heap, put a bit more green in. But if you're putting your ratios in right, your heap will not go anaerobic. It's just, I guarantee that. So a layer of green, a layer of brown, a layer of green, a layer of brown. There's plenty of advice and information on the internet on what greens and browns are. Just basically something that's growing and something that's dead. That is green and brown. So dried out, dead, decayed, or green, healthy, growing. You know, it just basically breaks down to that, a carbon nitrogen ratio. And here go the Guns and Navarone. So it's December, guys, and there's nothing to do on the allotment. Going into January, there's nothing really to do on the allotment other than hard landscaping stuff like fences, maybe putting new bed boards in or whatever you do. You can still make compost, but you're probably thinking, well, what can I use? Yeah, you can use all the stuff that's died back, all the dead weeds, put them in the heap. Another reason you shouldn't put soil in the heap is just basically because all you're doing is moving the soil from the allotment into your compost heap, so you're just using it as a soil storage bin. All that's happening is the weeds that you put into the heap, they're sitting there as they would do on the soil. So what am I using now to compost? I'm going to try and still make as much compost as I can, even though it's winter. You can do this, you don't need a hot bin to do this. I'm going around, as you've seen, gathering apples. Any dead material on the allotments is going in the bins. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go out to the farms where they've got stables, and I'm going to start bringing horse manure back and mix it with straw. Straw and horse manure are just a fantastic combination of materials to compost. They generate a lovely amount of heat. They break down really fast and they just make such wonderful compost. By using horse manure and straw and greens and browns, you get a beautiful fungal and microbe balance in your compost, which is then essentially you're putting it onto the soil and you're introducing the fungal and microbial balance straight into your soil. That soil will then come back to life. What I'm doing with this hot bin material, I expect to have this filled up in the next couple of weeks and decomposing. I need to take these two bins apart because I'm going to wrap proof these two. Once I've wrap proofed these two, the contents of this bin will be put into the other end of the hot bins. So I can then take this bin down, wrap proof this one and start filling it again with horse manure and straw. So what am I doing with the compost that's in this hot bin? It's going to be used to earth up my potatoes, about a forkful, maybe a forkful and a half around each plant. When the plants get to about that size, which will be end of May, beginning of June, hopefully, touch wood. That's going to do one of many things. That is going to keep the ground moist. It's going to provide a massive amount of food instantly for the microbes in the soil, which can then feed my potatoes. It's going to help the fungus in the soil water my potatoes. More on that in a future video. It's also going to compost those beds for the next year. So when the potatoes come out, I can literally then put anything in that ground and I'll get another beautiful crop of whatever I put in those beds. Brassicas, carrots, cover crops, whatever I want to grow will grow really well straight after the potatoes come out. I've got a couple of videos coming out, guys, in the next week or so. I'm doing one now about what seeds I'm doing one right now about what seeds I'm sowing in December and into January. I'm also going to do a very quick video which I actually shot in July earlier this year on how I store my potatoes. And we're still eating those potatoes now, and they are just like they were just dug up fresh from the ground. They're beautiful. These guns are really annoying me now, so I'm going to close up on this one, guys. So thanks to all my new subscribers, and everybody, Happy New Year. Let's hope the weather's a bit better than it was this year, eh? All right, see you quite soon. Bye for now. Stop! Talk about losing your train of thought. Bang, 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 bang. Bang, 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 bang.